We made it.
We made it. We did it.
Vertigo.
Yes.
Perhaps the end of our multiple persona lady.
Or perhaps the beginning.
Yeah. How many?
I know.
Would you call this? Would you call her a femme fatale?
Yeah.
You would.
Definitely.
Defining a femme fatale as what?
Well, she's the woman that he becomes entranced by that leads him through this journey that ultimately implicates him as being at fault in the death of someone. And so through her feminine wiles, she ensnares him. That's classic femme fatale, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The mystery, of course. The unknowing.
Mm-hmm.
The needing to know what drives her.
Yeah, right.
Her never letting on.
Yeah.
The full extent of
Yes.
what goes on. I was thinking of it in terms of when he was at his trial and the judge was just reading off how fucking what a weakling the protagonist is.
Yeah.
Just droning on and on about how he was weak and has vertigo, so he couldn't be responsible for the woman's death. That was brutal, first of all.
So brutal. Yes.
But it was also like that is horror. That's this is a man's horror movie, playing on a basic masculine fear of just weakness.
Right.
Non-virility.
Right.
The inability to change things.
Yeah.
And then I just kind of let that go, and I understood that it was a frame-up. Mm-hmm. And she didn't fall to her death at all.
Right. She
was murdered. But then it came back again, no, the weakness of man is still the prime mover of this film, because it was the husband of the shipyard owner chick that couldn't deal with his wife being more successful than him, more influential than him. He couldn't deal with that.
Yeah. So
he murdered her to take all the industry she owned. Mm-hmm. So it was man's weakness after all. That was the set these tragic events in motion.
Yeah, that's true. And even the story of Carlotta and her husband abandoning her is kind of in line with that.
It was very weak of him to abandon her.
Right.
Yeah. And it caused her to be this haunted ghost. Mm-hmm. That's another big theme, is people become these ghosts in this film.
Yeah.
Just they hang around the event that caused their downfall.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's so many places to go with that. When I was watching it, it was making me think of Orpheus, the Orpheus myth, and that comes up most of all, I think, in that scene where he takes Judy Barton back to the site of the death and tells her what happened, and he's like, what does he say? He says he just says he wants to go back into the past, and people don't get the opportunity to do that, but he wants this opportunity to do that.
This is my second chance.
Yeah, and he's
people don't often get second chances.
Mm-hmm. And he's so stuck on that. And I was thinking about, the way that in most stories, I think that's the leading character's downfall, if he's like that. I think Humbert and Lolita is one example. another would be like Gatsby and The Great Gatsby, being so attached to this past event that they can't move forward with their lives, so that, like, it becomes this very grotesque, like, like literally obsession with death, like necrophilia or something. But with Orpheus, he looks back at his wife who is dead, and he's not supposed to, and that's why he loses her. And but the thing that's unique about this film is that through his insistence upon like seeing this vision through, Judy asks him, like,
following the dream to its end.
Yeah, like, why are you doing this? And all the people in the shop that are dressing her up, like Madeline, or the ladies at the hair salon, they kind of are like, really, it's obviously strange. It's obviously like inappropriate
neurotic
and crazy.
And crazy that he's trying to dress up his new girlfriend to look like this girl from his past.
Yeah, but he, like, carries through with it, and it's so disturbing to watch the whole thing and to watch her continue to participate in it, and yet ultimately that's what redeems him in the end. He carries it through and overcomes his acrophobia. And
he does.
Yeah.
It's a real fucked up way to do it.
Yeah.
Because people die.
Well, I don't think it required her death.
But she did die, though. That sucks.
Yeah, so I was going to ask about that. Like, I think that that's unnecessary and sort of just, there was, like, something else could have happened for her, maybe. I don't know. Is that...
At the end, Judy Barton dies just the same way the first woman, Madeline, died.
Right.
Except it was a tragic accident with Judy instead of a murder that was framed up to look like a suicide. My first gut impulse was that didn't need to happen. It was just for, I don't know if shock value is the right term, but like to just twist the knife in and be like that much more of a fucked up Alfred Hitchcock movie.
Yeah.
To have the second girl die too the same way.
Yeah. Like, I think watching it a second time, I became more interested in Judy's character and how she's, like, writing that note to John saying, like, that confessing the whole story.
Her
and
writing
saying,
her confession note that she was complicit in a frame-up.
Right.
And the girl he loves didn't commit suicide at all. He's just a pawn.
Exactly.
She wrote that letter.
Yeah, and then she says, like, that she's like leaving him, because she loves him, and that she would, a part of her wishes she could just pretend like none of it had ever happened and just stay and like be with him. And then she tears up the note and decides to, like, stay and be with him and try to, like, act out this story, this new story. And even as he's, like, dyeing her hair and putting her in these outfits, she stays. And, like, the strangeness of that decision, it's like,
she has to follow the dream through too, because she's obviously haunted by the guilt of being complicit in a murder.
Yeah.
So she wants to see the thing through too.
Right.
I mean, it'd be nice if she didn't have to die at the end. They could be happy together or something.
Yeah,
at
I
least
wonder.
Start over from that point.
Like, if she has to see it through as well, and she has to, like, basically, she has to suffer, like, the karma of this, like, illusion that she created.
Yes.
And
it's a snagged up knot of lies
that
her soul yearns to untie.
Right.
As you bend reality, reality just wants to spring back.
Yeah. And so I'm just trying to imagine what like an alternative ending could be that could fulfill that necessity without her dying.
She could go to jail for 10 years.
I don't think that's helpful.
And John stays with her and waits for her the whole time. And then they're together again.
I don't like it. Maybe she does have to die. Maybe she doesn't. I don't know. Maybe she just is able to have like there's just a change at the end where she's not reacting to him in fear when she's confronting like him knowing what she did.
So the staircase up heals his vertigo.
Right.
The staircase up could be a transformation of her.
Yeah.
Like by the time she gets to the top,
Right.
she isn't resisting him anymore.
Yeah.
And she has a chance to like tell him what happened.
Right.
Or not.
Right.
Like instead of him figuring everything out.
Right.
She goes through a personal karmic suffering to the top of the staircase.
Right.
And then like looks him straight in the eye.
Yeah.
Tells him I was complicit in the frame up that drove you insane.
Yeah.
And I love you, by the way.
Right.
And
that's
the symbolic jumping off the cliff.
Exactly, that's true.
Like when you're running away from illusion because you're convinced it's going to kill you if it ever catches you. And then finally just turning around to face it. Part of you is completely convinced that is death.
Yeah.
To do that. Mm-hmm. So she didn't have to literally jump off. She could have just done the virtuous thing.
Right.
Which is psychologically jumping off a cliff sometimes.
Right.
When you are haunted by guilt in that way.
And she didn't literally jump off even, which is what makes it feel less... Like, if she had literally jumped off, maybe that would kind of feel better, but she, falls off accidentally.
It didn't really show her one way or the other. She
screams.
That doesn't mean anything.
Oh, okay.
Not to me. I thought she saw, some weird nightmare apparition.
Yeah.
And was screaming at the nun coming up the stairs.
Oh.
And then, fell or ran away from the apparition.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that she was stumbling backward from the apparition, but that she did not mean to jump.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, one of the biggest themes for me as a man was, not knowing what your girl is doing or feeling or thinking.
Okay. Yeah.
Or how she's motivated.
Yeah.
But to push her makes the thing worse.
Oh.
It's very Lost Highway.
Right.
This whole movie.
That's why I suggested it.
Yeah. It's very much like Lost Highway.
Yeah.
And, back when the plot was one thing, it was more like that.
Yeah.
When she was, possessed of a spirit.
Yeah.
And, on this journey through her unconscious. Mm-hmm. And he was, pushing her, stalking her, and pushing her to, go further than she wanted to down this tunnel of the unconscious because he can't stand not knowing who she is.
Yeah.
And there's this... Well, I suppose, just like Lost Highway, that's what triggers the phantoms of a man's personal knowledge of his own weakness.
Yeah.
It's being confronted with the inexplicable.
Right.
In drama, the man is often confronted with the inexplicable in the form of a woman.
Yeah.
What do you want to talk about next?
I want to talk about Midge.
She was fucking fantastic.
Yeah, I think she's a fascinating character. Yeah, I'm just trying to understand her still. So
she was the there was this great like nesting doll situation where the protagonist was like couldn't stand the mystery of Madeline, was chasing her down and pushing her to tell him what was in the shadows of her mind. And then he would be sitting silent, stony silent with Midge. And Midge had been stalking him the whole time and is pushing him to tell her what the fuck he was doing. And she's like driven into neurosis.
Yeah, so she is like, from the beginning, she's kind of like the site of reflection that she gets to kind of ask him questions and kind of becomes like a narrator for us. Like, she's the one that explains what's happening with Carlotta, I think. Like, she guesses it. She's the one that, like, so what are you going to do now that you're not on the police force? Like, she's like leading us into his world. And there's two things with her that I'm interested in, or there's several things with her. So in the beginning, we hear that like they were once engaged briefly and that she called it off, but it seems clear that
she loves him.
She loves him, but they have kind of this, he kind of is like asking her if she's single and she's interested in him, but there's this, it's very like...
He's not, I read it as he's undeveloped and uncommitted.
Yeah, completely.
Even when he said the offer to marry her was still open,
he
said it so flippantly that to say yes to that would be an insult to yourself.
Exactly, right, yes. And so...
So she's like waiting for him still.
Yeah. And then it just makes me think about her as a woman and compared to the other figure of woman in
Madeline slash Carlotta
Judy.
slash Judy.
Yeah, which is like Midge is always like in her home with her glasses on, like doing a task, you know.
Well, she's healthy and creative and stable.
Yeah. And she's like helping him make sense of things too. And she's even maybe like a motherly figure to him sometimes.
Yes.
In contrast, Judy and Madeline are like extremely glamorous looking.
And this whirlwind of chaos.
Yes.
And literal lies.
Yes, right. And like always like a little bit like helpless, and he doesn't encounter them in comfortable houses. He encounters them like in the city, in the ocean. And obviously makeup plays a big feature in both of those characters, Judy and Madeline.
And how they're made up.
Right. And like I wonder how I want to say this. Like a feminist critique of this film is that he's obsessed with the like performance of femininity with the glamour of it all. And Midge is kind of on the flip side of that, because she's not presenting exactly in the same glamorous way that they are. She's kind of on the other side where she's like explaining how this bra works and like the function of it, and like she's like has her glasses on and is like in the workshop and is like sort of behind the scenes part of the construction of it or something like that.
There was a push and pull. I was thinking of Jordan Peterson talking about child development and how to encourage your child and what a child naturally does, which was goes out into the unknown, the playground, or before the playground goes out into the backyard or the creek behind the house.
Right.
Like just enough, or even before that, goes out into to pet the dog by themselves.
Yeah.
And then runs back to hug their mom.
Right.
And then goes back a little further.
Yeah.
And explores a little further, and then once they've had enough, they run back to their mom.
Yeah.
And that's how a child grows, how a child explores their universe. And so that's what he was doing.
You're so right. That's a good reading of that.
His journeys further into the mystery of being a private investigator to find out what this girl's about.
Yeah.
And seeing the murk of her go deeper and deeper are like punctuated by these returns to normalcy and returns to the sane, ordered world.
Yeah.
And he goes back to mommy in the woman that he's taking for granted.
Yeah. And I think she literally says, like, mother's here.
She does say that,
Okay. Yeah. And then in light of that, what can we make of the Midge's Carlotta painting? Do you have thoughts on that?
She can't hide her connection to his drama.
Yeah.
She knows intimately all about it.
Yeah.
Because she loves him. So through him, she's intimately connected with the whole drama.
Yeah.
And whether she meant, like, she could have completely accidentally made that portrait that way, just like intuitionally, and the effect would have been the same of just trying to show him that I'm here in your journey with you. Yeah. I'm experiencing this journey with you, and also like I'm the realization of everything you're pursuing too. Like the feminine is right here too. Yeah. Like look at how glorious I am as well.
Right.
But also like trying to change herself because she sees what he's pursuing. Yeah. So she tries to create a vision of herself like I can be that too.
Yeah. Oh God, it's so.
But then it's like, what's the failure there? Like, why was that the wrong thing for her to do? Like,
well, it feels disturbing, and I guess it's because it's not about her anymore, right? She like subordinates herself to this like other image.
Yeah, it's like on the one hand, it's her like first love, she says, which is painting. Yeah. And she's inspired to return to it.
Right.
She's even inspired to paint herself not as a homebody,
right,
but like create an idealized version of herself.
Right.
But then like it's all wrapped up around like something she can't control, or it's like primarily in reference to his journey,
right,
instead of inspired from her own journey.
Yeah.
But Midge was he should have just.
Yeah. We all know this.
Yeah, he should have seen what he had at home.
Yeah.
And gone for that.
Yeah.
Have you ever had that experience of the man just not being able to accept not knowing, or not being able to accept your narrative that you're ready to present on the outside?
Yes.
Like, that's often like, as I understand the archetype, the woman is discovering the experience as she's living it.
Yeah.
And then she is experiencing like being pushed to explain things.
Right.
The man doesn't know it, but being pushed to explain things in a man's terms.
Right. Yeah.
Or else.
Yeah, totally.
So is that...
Yeah.
Are you familiar with this phenomenon?
I am familiar with this phenomenon. I think... I'm trying to think of what I can say about this. I noticed, actually, I'm just going to go deep within myself here. I feel like there's the masculine and feminine parts within myself, and the masculine part of myself is the part that becomes anxious and is like, what the fuck is happening? Like, this is scary. And so I noticed that when I'm experiencing a new emotion or something, the feminine part of myself is like translating it as like story or image, and then the masculine aspect is like analyzing story or image. This is how emotions are processed within my machine. Yeah.
In my machine, like the woman inside is the kind of oversoul situation.
Yeah.
The man side of it is like the physical creature in the situation and the physical reactions and like the knee-jerk reactions too, and like the woman in me almost is like following him along and trying to like account for what he's doing and see what he needs and help him push forward.
Yeah. So that's funny because as you were describing the masculine aspect, like I think that that's how I experience my masculine aspect, in the sense that it's the physical part or something. It's like I don't know, like it feels very like embodied, except that I feel like the masculine aspect is reacting to what the feminine is doing. Like it's like the masculine is reacting to.
I saw a kind of life theme happening in that sequence where he was forcing her.
I know, I was going to bring this up. It's so crazy. It's like
so fucked up.
I kind of think it's amazing that something that something that intense is just in like an old film like this. Do you know what I mean? I think we don't even see that kind of psychology being expressed today. Like no one's even like touching that. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, it's so misogynistic.
Yeah.
To use the word for it. He like needs her to look a certain way.
Yeah.
He dresses her.
Yeah.
Oh
God, it's creepy.
Well, when you love someone, when you're in love with someone, your animus, my anima, projects upon them.
Right.
And so, depending on the codependent nature of your relationship and the extent to which both of you are individuated or not, then you might forget the discernment that you are seeing an individual that's different than you, who you sometimes project your own other gender upon.
Right.
And when you forget that, you kind of assume an ownership of your partner, and you want them to look a certain way. You want them to act a certain way. Because that's how me inside as the other gender should be.
I've completely experienced that, and
so we were we were watching that happen. Like she was his anima. And his anima was fixated PTSD style on the woman he felt responsible for her death. So he
literally wanted to bring her back to life.
He was seizing, psychologically, he was seizing his anima. Forcing her to look a certain way. And like, it's a distortion of what's supposed to happen, where like you're supposed to understand there's a difference there between the woman or the man that you love that's in front of you, the significant other, and your projection of the other gender to your physical gender that has a projection, like in your psyche.
Right.
They're different things, and your relationship with your animus is your own journey.
Yeah.
And
separate from
no man needs to participate at all for you to experience personal progress with the man as such.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And same with the woman, same with men in general in their relationship to women. Like, you can be led into situations of powerlessness or taking too much control because you feel powerless. Because you aren't experiencing your own personal relationship with the anima and taking responsibility for it, so you feel forced to manipulate the outside, the closest thing you can see to it on the outside, which is your significant other.
Yeah.
And then when they do something unaccountable, then you feel like a piece of yourself is out of your control.
Right.
So he's like trying to change her to fulfill his own vision.
Right.
And that's this like fucked up distortion of what naturally happens with the anima and your subsequent experience with your significant other. Like, you're not supposed to dress up your girl like a fucking doll.
So creepy.
Or like tell your man what he's allowed to eat and how he's supposed to dress, how he's supposed to act in public or not. You're supposed, like, you see those things that they do that are less than ideal, then you're supposed to personally grow as a person.
Yeah,
and personally grow in your understanding of women or men. And then, like, each, like, change of dress that he makes the girl undergo, that's supposed to be achievement of personal values that then transforms not your significant other, but the way you see her.
And the way you see yourself. I think.
By way of changing the way you see yourself.
Yeah.
Like, I assume it's a pretty universal thing. Like, the more you grow as a person, the better relationships you have.
Yeah.
The better sex you have.
Yeah.
Like, the better, and not even like the better partners you attract, but like your partner becomes like better.
Yeah.
Just because you
are being better, and there's just that natural.
You're just taking care of yourself. It like frees them to do what they need to do in some way that makes them more attractive. Suddenly. Yeah,
I think, and that's actually also maybe about becoming more comfortable with the fact of mystery and that someone can be an other at all. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that, like, it's right that they do things that I don't understand, and that's like part of the like interest and like and like
to like to accept no dark corridors and no shut doors is to destroy your relationship. To have some hypothetical complete knowledge of things. It just like destroys the whole thing.
Totally.
It's like it's the same. There's a similar theme of like the need of man in the past to conquer nature. Like, it's not okay that any part of nature is unexplainable. There must be an explanation. And so that can be carried too far to this extermination of the mystery of things.
Yeah. Nothing is left wild. Yeah.
Cool. Are you feeling good?
Yeah. I can't really think of other points right now, but
Well, was there anything you had in what does this theme make you think of? This theme of women playing different roles in the same film.
That's a good question.
There's a few films now.
Yeah. Why is it so interesting to me? I think when it happened twice in the films we watched, it felt like a coincidence. And the third time, okay, we have a theme. And the fourth time, let's build on the theme.
This was the fourth time?
Yeah.
There's Lost Highway. There's Green Knight before.
And it happened in Metropolis.
Oh, it did. Yes.
And
there was often,
what did I say about that?
like, I don't know yet about this one, but in the first three, it was a complete flip.
Yes.
Of the theme of that female character.
Yeah.
When the same actress would play a different character, it'd be this inside out, reverse, and negative image.
Basically how he experiences it here, right? He experiences like this angelic, like totally like blonde, like glowing white woman who's like, you know, so perfect and like ultimately tragic, and he can't save her, but he wants to. And then he experiences the woman who is revealed to be the femme fatale, and she has like heavy makeup and dark hair. It's like literally that same. She's just like Maria, you know.
She's dark hair and complicit in murder.
Yeah.
And not very innocent.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I find it interesting because there's a really basic level of just like that we can all kind of participate in that to varying degrees all the time, and it's interesting to explore personas within ourselves.
Participate in that flexibility of psyche.
Yeah, and like, I mean, at the super basic level of like literally just playing with costumes and putting on heavy makeup or taking it off, and I used to dye my hair all the time, and I loved to like, I don't know, wear like a very angelic looking white dress and then wear, you know, the opposite. And I guess one individual can contain like the spectrum of being. That's fun to me.
Yeah, and you natively feel your ability to do that.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see.
Yeah.
It's nice to see that illustrated.
It's super. Yeah, that's really true.
Like that was a general association in the last Stewart podcast, was wondering why birds are such evocative symbols for quarters or for America
or other countries too, yeah.
And I was thinking, well, the inner self feels itself to basically be free.
Yeah.
And you can fly in dreams.
Yeah.
So the symbol of a bird is like,
right.
I resonate with that.
Yeah.
But because I physically can't right now, like, I just have to like attach aesthetically to this bird symbol.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Yeah, I've brought up like Ovid and Pygmalion in reference to what the main character's doing, and I've just been thinking about the way that he's writing about like shape-shifting, and that's kind of like he's writing creation myths that are just like stories of people, humans shape-shifting into plants and animals and
Ovid
trees.
and Pygmalion are in one story?
Ovid writes Orpheus, the myth of Orpheus, and then Orpheus sings about Pygmalion. So So Pygmalion is like a sculptor. He doesn't love any women in the world, and then he sculpts a perfect woman, and he like brings her these offerings, and he loves her so much that Aphrodite like blesses her, and she becomes a real person, and she becomes his wife.
And Pygmalion is the sculptor.
Yes, Pygmalion is the sculptor
Who goes down to Hades.
No, Orpheus goes down to Hades to rescue his wife Eurydice, and then later, when he hasn't, he sings the story of Pygmalion. They're just two artists that are like thinking about women. I don't know.
Okay. They just love bitches.
I'm bringing up Orpheus because...
And they're in a shared universe.
Yeah, he's attached to the ghost of his lost wife, which John is. And then Pygmalion because he's creating the image of the loved object. And John is also recreating through the makeover process that image. Yeah. So that's why I'm mentioning those things.
Yeah. It's just crazy. Like, Western civilization didn't, and plenty of cultures, didn't used to understand that one gender had as much potential free will as the other gender. Yeah,
right. So that was only in the context of men that those creative acts were happening.
Yes,
I know, it's absurd.
But remember what I talked to you about around the table. Like, when that's the cultural belief, the women subscribe to it just as much as the men.
Yeah, because it's
and they play the part.
Yeah.
They play the part of a half person.
Right.
Because they don't know that that's not what life is supposed to be.
Right.
And then...
And it's scary. It's scary to...
Oh, you get responsibility.
Yeah, well...
in such a culture, a woman couldn't be sentenced to murder.
Yeah.
Because that culture can't even recognize that a woman can make choices fully.
And, I mean, I guess...
So, she could commit murder knowing that, my husband is going to take the fall for this.
Yeah. Oh, God. When I think of, the suffragettes, I guess it feels like a very, powerful thing to me. It's just all of these women standing up and being
incredibly powerful.
We're just
I'm sure women fought against the suffragettes.
Exactly.
Just like men did.
Yeah, and just imagining the spirit of that and the power of that and the reactions that there are so many people in their own families must have had and the power that they had going forward anyway and being jailed and it's the greatest thing.
Yeah, but we have a different set of stories now.
It's true.
It's generally understood that people of different genders stand on equal ground.
Yeah, I think
on equal starting points of they're a person.
Yeah.
But now it's the same principles now, just more subtle.
Yeah.
What's your ideology and which kind of person does your ideology paint as the enemy? Okay, now that's the new subhuman that you think is not completely one of you, not completely able to make their own choices. That's still happening. Just the left thinks everyone on the right are these subhuman
it's just happening in a different way.
Primates. And the right thinks everyone on the left is some crazy schizoid communist bent on world destruction.
Right.
And neither side thinks the other side deserves human rights.
Right, yeah.
And it's the same psychological projection happening of whenever you paint an enemy, you psychologically project all your personal weaknesses onto that person or that group of people.
Yeah.
So that it's a kind of defense mechanism.
Right.
You don't have to experience yourself as weak or flawed because all the mental energy you could spend doing that, you spend it actively seeing it outside of you.
Yeah.
So you can judge that thing.
So I think this is why I like the persona shape-shifting thing, is that you can experience yourself as a powerful human, or you can experience yourself as a cow running away from the god, or I think that perhaps the next thing we should watch is Ingmar Bergman's Persona, because it's about two women, and one of them is like an actress that's had a psychotic break, and the other is her nurse. And so the actress is glamorous and unknown and doesn't speak, and then the nurse is like supposed to be the motherly caregiver figure, and she is trying to get her to speak. And through this process, like, they kind of become like each other, and one starts to behave as the more glamorous one, and they
very Mulholland Drivey.
Yes, very Mulholland Drivey. Yes, we're just gonna keep dancing in circles around these themes.
Multiple personas of women becoming other women.
Oh God!
Infinitely.
When we run out of movies, I'll just start making them. Like, Alex, look, women.
We'll just show up to the next one as each other. we'll finally go too far.
I know just what to do. My friend was just explaining to me how you can get like fake dreads, and I was like,
"Oh, okay."
Oh. Yeah,
there's definitely some, what would you call it, existential instability in the phenomenon of Ade and I working with each other.
Existential instability because of the...
Just trading of personas, right. And whatever you gaze upon starts to remake you in its image.
Right.
So here we are, like, overtly trying to make a lifetime career with each other. Right. So, like, anything one or the other of us does, the other, like, is going to subconsciously project, like, what if they do that for the rest of my fucking life? How would I react to that?
Right. Oh, God. Wow. Yeah, I think once he said it's like you're married, and I was like, wow, that's big for you guys.
It changes you in the other person's image.
Yeah.
And that can be good or bad.
Yeah.
You know, I think ideally you want to just surround yourself with relationships that can last and grow for your entire life.
Right.
But then, like...
You also want to have the freedom to...
Well, you want the people closest to you to basically want you to be yourself.
Yeah.
And basically help you be more yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like... And so that process of imprinting on someone else, like, it needs to be like, I'm taking the imprint from you of what I most need to learn of myself. Like, that's what I need next to grow the most. And so, like, being more like you is me fulfilling more of my own moral like journey.
I'm like picking this because it's aligning with my yeah.
And then on the dark side, you have people who just stay in relationships, stay in friendships, stay with family members that they don't like. Whatever their justification is for sticking around for years, for decades, for a whole life around someone they hate. And then the same phenomena happens. They become that person.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Cool. I guess.
And on that note.
Yeah, we're probably done.
Yeah.
Cool.